We are part of the Fired Up Sports Network of shows. Please check out other Fired Up Sports Network podcasts like the P-Lot Pod, Water Cooler Talk, Bell Smashers, Philly Sports Love and Pain, Drunk on Broad, Beer Battered Sports, and the Fired Up Sports Show, which are available on all major podcasting hosting sites and social media. Also, check out Mark Ramos' Roundup on firedupsports.com, which breaks down the happenings going on with all your favorite local teams.
The Philadelphia Eagles are Super Bowl champions.
E-A-G-L-E-S, swinging a miss, struck him out. The Philadelphia Phillies are 2008 World Champions of Baseball.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Flyers are going to win the Stanley Cup. The Flyers win the Stanley Cup for the lead. Yes! Iverson, wow, what a fake off Daniels as he broke his ankles and got all the way to the cup.
Oh, well, welcome in. It's episode 224. Today we're drunk on the Phils. Eric, we got at least we have something positive to talk about after last night, because it's been hard to watch the last couple of weeks. It's been a rough watch. This team is, I can't even say fallen back to earth. They've fallen past the crust of the earth, and it's been funky to watch. These guys really struggle on many fronts, struggle together. At least last night, we get a glimpse of what we saw earlier in the season. Hopefully, we saw them play well against they get the rubber match against the Marlins. They win 3 out of 4 against the Nats, and we thought that was the springboard, and then it kind of fell off again. Again, they go down to Atlanta, struggle. Atlanta, some of the statistics coming out of Atlanta, we'll talk about in a minute, were wildly horrific at the top of the lineup. Hopefully today is a way, another place to, go out, beat the Royals this afternoon. They're going to take them on this afternoon around 2 and win that series, get back on track, because the stretch coming back home is going to be just as tough.
Yeah, it's certainly been a whirlwind of a couple weeks here. Just when every time you start thinking they're kind of back, something else would happen. I think what the most frustrating thing was that Braves series, and just seeing how there was absolutely no offensive approach from the top of the lineup. They just couldn't. It's at the point now where it's like, if they're down 2 runs, it's like, do they even have a shot? Yes, there was at least some encouragement, I guess, seeing them put up a big number there. But it's still like, I have to see that a couple more times before I can really, actually sit here and be confident in anything they're doing. I really do think at some point they're going to, kind of go on a hot streak again here. It's just, I've never been more apathetic in this season about the team. Like, I'm watching every game, but I'm like, I can't waste the energy and get my blood pressure to the point with this team where it has been. So it's kind of like, what happens. I can't do anything to control it. Either they're going to care and they're actually going to show some signs of life, or they're going to just, keep going with the run of the mill, oh, nope, we're going to get there. We're going to get there. Yep. The guys will just hit. It's just like, stop saying the same things over and over again and show us that you actually care. Because seeing the reactions I'm seeing from Trey and Bryce, it's just like, this is the first time I've seen them actually seem like they do not care about how this is going. Maybe it's a good thing. Maybe they're not pressing, but I don't know. It's frustrating from a fan standpoint.
Yeah, it's been really hard to watch, because it's like, you look at, and let's go back specifically to that Brave series. The top of the lineup was, pathetic was an understatement. It was hard to watch, and you're looking for those guys to kind of springboard you into that series. And man, well, I can't remember. I'm trying to go back and look for the stats from that series, but it was like something like they were like 2 for 25 or something. Like it was.
I got it right here. Actually, you sent it to me the other day. It's 2 for 33. Shore returner and Harper 2 for 33 with 14 strikeouts in that one series.
And that's the part that bothers me, the strikeouts, because it's like not only like I can understand like a bad stretch, but like the strikeouts, and the strikeouts were bad. They were like they were looking, they were swings and misses, and the swings and misses were like. So this is the other thing. I don't know. I can't remember, and I might misquote. I think it was Matt Gelb wrote a piece about the way that teams are pitching the Phillies post All-Star break. Is that? Did you read the same article?
I read bits and pieces. I don't think I didn't actually click on the full thing, but I read excerpts from other people. For some reason I never actually saw it get posted, so I didn't.
But the idea of the fact that like when you look at what's going on and how teams are pitching them, like the book is out. Like the teams, I don't know why it took teams a whole half a season to realize that you can't throw this team fastballs. Like you only have to throw the fastballs when you absolutely need them. But now that the approach is now to pitch them backwards, throw balls that are tons of breaking balls out of the zone. And what's crazy is that like, if we know that, you got to imagine that they know that.
Right.
And yet you still see, even in the game last night, you still see guys that are going up there that are swinging at balls that are not even close to the strike zone. And it's so hard to see where this team falls down in these pitch, like in their approach, because you're not talking about like a bad line, like you're talking about like an elite lineup. And these guys are the approach is still like you're swinging at balls that are way down in the zone, way outside, like in the other batter's box. And I'm going like, if it were me, you would almost want to tell them like, wait for him to throw a ball in his zone first. Like don't swing until strike one. Like I know that some of these guys, like they love to jump on that first pitch, but like their approach to something like as good as Turner played early in the season, right? Turner was on a batting title type torrid pace. And the fact that he's batted as bad as he has, and he's still hitting above 300 tells you how good the first half of his season was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's the approach I think is really where we're seeing the biggest issues here. It's almost like there is no approach. Different guys are going up there trying to do different things. You know, you have guys who are sitting there trying to go first pitch every single time. I think that's really been one of Stott's downfalls this year. Like he used to work counts last year. Now I know last night he went 4 for 4. Hopefully that kind of gets him going a little bit.
Yeah.
But like his approach this season has been way worse than it was last year. I think Schwarber, we're always going to kind of have the same thing, right? Like, I mean, he hasn't actually he's been frustrating during the Atlanta series, but overall, I think he's been somewhat steady compared to, you know, what he could be. But yeah, I mean, Turner to me right now I know he had 3 hits last night, but his approach up there, like, you know, when Castellanos is going bad and all you have to do is throw that low and away slider outside and he's going to swing at it 100% of the time. It doesn't matter what the count is. Doesn't matter if everyone on the entire planet knows it's coming. For some reason, he doesn't. That's how Turner looks right now with any breaking ball below the zone. It's like, I don't know why anyone is not just throwing a changeup, a curveball, or a slider down below the zone, because he is swinging over top of everything there. And that's exactly what he was doing last year when he was going bad up until August. So it's like he's not seeing the ball right now. It's like we can all see it, and you know that they watch film. Like they have iPads in the dugouts now. I mean, you know, before back during Utley's time, it was going back into the video room. He'd watch film during the game. These guys can see it in real time, and it's still just like I don't know how they don't know what's coming next. That's the frustrating part.
It almost seems like with Castellanos and Turner, like you could tell them that pitch is coming. You could tell them not to swing, and they still probably might swing.
Yeah,
like it's almost like there's absolutely no self-control
Yeah.
Like I'm curious. I'd be curious to have a conversation with them and say, like, what are you seeing when the ball's coming out of his hands? What are you seeing that says swing? Because when you watch it on a replay, now listen, but by no means am I claiming to be able to touch any MLB. Like I probably couldn't touch Garrett Stubbs if Garrett Stubbs is pitching,
Nope.
right?
Knew
But
this good. Yeah.
right, but I'd be curious to see like what when you see that ball, what in your mind is saying swing? Because I'm looking at it and I'm going, I'm listening to Ricky Batalico after the game. I'm listening to Ben Davis after the game. I'm listening to these guys, right? And I think it was it last weekend, maybe Steve Jeltz called in the WIP, right? To say like I don't know what these guys are swinging and I don't know what they're seeing.
Yeah.
Right? Like those are trained eyes. Those are guys that are doing it every single day. And they're saying, like, well, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. And I'm going, oh, like that's a problem. Like
Yeah.
and so the other guy that's been super frustrating, right? I know that he's a really good vibes guy, but Brandon Marsh has been like unwatchable at the plate, and his strikeout rate, like this year, like he's got 329 at bats, and he has 125 strikeouts.
Mm-hmm.
Just for comparison, he had 144 all of last year.
Right. No, he has taken a major step back in that regard. And remember, he started out the season on an absolute tear. And then
absolutely.
Somewhere around July, he was just like, he's been lost up there and just has not, he's had a couple sack flies here and there. He had a double the other day, but it's just like, maybe he's starting to come around, but he's another one with like plate discipline. This whole team just for basically since the All-Star break has looked like they've never seen a breaking ball before. And again, I know it's easier said than done, right? Like, I mean, you said it, neither of us could do this. These guys are professional hitters, but you start wondering, it's like, okay, like the two guys that we've, kind of spotlighted here are Castellanos, who's actually been playing pretty well lately, and Turner, because those are the guys who I think, when they're going bad, look the worst at the plate when it comes to swinging at pitches outside of the zone. And it's like, we could sit here saying, okay, yeah, we know it's coming. They should probably be able to do something similar, but I get it. It is tough to pick out spin out of a pitcher's hand. I mean, that's why there's a reason that they're major league pitchers, right? But these guys are veterans. It's not like, we're asking Johan Rojas to do this, right? He's obviously, his offensive game was never part of his makeup. He's a young guy, right? But like these guys have been around the league for how many years now? It's like you got to kind of know what's coming at some point, and you have to understand the situation too. Just like putting the ball in play and not striking out. I mean, Turner, that's strikeouts for a guy like Turner, where he's hitting, what he can do on the base pass is just it's so frustrating. It's just so frustrating.
It seems, and for whatever reason, Eric, it always seems to happen at the worst times.
Mm-hmm.
Like the times where you need him the most. When he's coming up, when you've got guys at the bottom of the lineup that are getting on. Like there were plenty of times, and I can't remember specifics, but there were a handful of times in the Braves series where the bottom of the lineup guys are getting on, right? And you get and you're like perfect, right? 7, 8, 9 are getting on, and you got Schwarber, Turner, and Harper come up, and nothing. And I think in that one I can't remember where I heard it, but like in that same stretch where we talked about where Turner, Schwarber, and Harper are 2 for 33, the 8, 9 guys were like 0 for. So like when in the one game where they were, I think Real Muto's hit in like the 3rd or the 4th was like the last hit of the game, and you had like almost 5 consecutive outs. Like it was like they were automatic outs. And I'm going like those guys have to be your slump stoppers. Like those guys have to like work an at bat, get on, like bunt, like I know Harper and Schwarber aren't going to bunt, but like you got to be able to put the ball in play. You got to be able to work a count. Like there were so many times where like you'd have opportunities with guys, maybe not in scoring position, but guys on base, and you go up there and you swing at a first pitch and you roll it over and it's double play and the inning's over.
Yeah. It's almost like every single time, like you look down at your phone at the beginning of an at bat, you look up and it's already 0-2. It's just like they just kept getting behind. They just have, and it really goes back to what we were talking about, in the beginning here. It all goes down to the approaches and what they're trying to do with the ball. But we did see it the other day where the one game they did win in the Braves series. They played small ball, right? Like they scored on sacrifice flies, they scored on little, and got on base with infield hits and everything like that. So but that was all the bottom of the lineup basically. So it was good to see things yesterday. Hopefully, starting to see things turn around because Schwarber had a couple of knocks. Turner I think had Turner had 3. JT obviously had the best game. One of the best games of any Philly this year so far in terms of offensive production. So it's like, they could put up a game like that, right? But I mean, every offense can put up one game like that, right? I mean, we've seen the Tigers put up 12 runs against good teams before. So it's just like, okay, I mean, you did it, but now I need to see that again. I need to see that again against the Royals today. And I want to, now the Astros were getting at a great time because they are the freaking hottest team in baseball right now. So the beginning of this week should be interesting. But if that will show me something, right? Like if they just lay down and don't put up a fight against Houston, I'm kind of like, this team is destined maybe for that early first round exit or something like that. But if they can actually show some fight here and start turning it around and put up some runs, because realistically, like the starting pitching has been good. That has not really fallen. There was a couple starts here and there where some guys were falling off, but the starting pitching's been good. I put almost all of this on the offense. Like all of my frustration is the offense. Some of the bullpen guys I think are a little overworked. They're getting a little tired. Like Hoffman and Strahm have been a little shaky lately, but I think they're going to come around once they kind of they both looked okay. Hoffman looked good last night. Kirkland's looked good his last couple outings. So I put all this on the offense, and that's really what I want to see today and getting into next week.
I think that this team is only going to go it's only going to go as far as this offense takes them. Yeah, they have to, and the way that they've had games where the offense doesn't show up at all. I get it, maybe a couple guys, but there are games and in this stretch since the All-Star break where the offensive approach is so bad and it's unwatchable, and there are automatic outs all throughout this lineup because the approach is terrible. Mm-hmm. It makes it impossible to win games. There's so many games in this stretch where you've gotten really, really productive performances from your pitching staff, right? You're getting games from Wheeler where he's going to pitch 7, gives up 2, and that's a game you should win. There's no way that your offense shouldn't be able to put up 2-3 runs a night. And I get it. It doesn't happen every night, but on a night where Wheeler, was it they had the stretch where they lined up the pitching staff for the best possible outcome against Atlanta, right? You line it up so that you get Wheeler, Nola, and Christopher Sanchez. And it kind of fell on its face, because you didn't get the offensive output coming off a series against the Nats where that's your get right series, right? You win 3 out of 4, you win 4 straight when you go back and take the game with Miami. And then you're it just kind of falls on its face. And I know that there's ebbs and flows in this, but it doesn't make it any less frustrating because you're going to need to see them get right going down the stretch. Cause you're now, correct me if I'm wrong, but you're now behind Milwaukee in the NL standings, right? You're still, you're in front of, I'm trying to pull it up right here. You're in front of Atlanta by 5 games.
5,
right? And not for nothing, but it wasn't that long ago that lead was 10.
Right, exactly. But we actually got lucky too, because remember there was a stretch where we were playing poorly, where everyone else was too. So it really should be a lot closer than even 5 right now. That's how poorly the Phillies have been since the All-Star break.
Right. And here's the pessimistic glass half empty Phillies fan in me. You got 4 coming up with Atlanta at home. And if you play shitty in those at home, and now you leave that series and that lead is 2 or 3, now it's different. Now, and let's call it what it is. Atlanta is not at its best either. Atlanta is probably down its 4 best players right now.
They have an excuse to be bad. We don't.
Right.
That's the thing.
Right. Like you dropped a series to Atlanta where Whit Merrifield
and
is
Ramon
batting
Mariano.
second.
Yeah.
Right. Like they're literally picking the guys up that other teams are casting off. And
Urshela.
Yeah, Gio Urshela, right? They're figuring out ways to put together and just continue to fight. And I know that's the ebbs and flows of the MLB season, but man, it does not make it any less easy to listen to the games, to almost listen to it with a sense of apathy.
Yeah, that's really how it is. I mean, I'm obviously like it's it's a sick addiction that I have to watching every game and doing this to myself. But it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, I'm going to watch today. Am I super confident in anything? Not really. Like, but if we would have these shows before the All-Star break, and we're like, is this the team? Like, this team has it, right? Everything's clicking at the same time. Now it's kind of like nothing. Like, well, I shouldn't say nothing because again, the starting pitching's good. Having Ranger, let's talk about a positive here real quick. Getting Ranger back is massive. He was super efficient last night through 5 innings. He only had like 72 pitches through 5 innings. I get, why they didn't want. Number one, they were scoring. The Phillies were scoring. There's no sense in pushing him further than he has to in his first start back. But I just hope to God that this is the Ranger we're going to see going forward. I hope it was a back issue. Hopefully now that he's had extended time off because of his innings, kind of getting up there. I really hope this is the Ranger we're going to see because now we have this rotation other than, the Walker starts. Could keep this team in any game, in my opinion. Yeah.
So to stay on the positive, Ranger Suarez looked like old Ranger Suarez. Mm-hmm. He looked like the Ranger Suarez that at that start of the season, 9-1 was in the conversation for starting the All-Star game and the Cy Young and all that. Like he looked efficient. He was dialed in. Right. Looked like he's getting the swings and misses. He was really, really impressive with how he operated. It was surgical. And that's the guy that you saw at the beginning of the season and in those starts leading up to the stint on the injured list. That's the stuff you saw him struggle with. Mm-hmm. He was struggling with ball placement. He was struggling with the control. Like he looked dialed in, right? You get 5 innings, 4 hits, 1 run, and 1 walk. And there you get the 1 walk and the 6 strikeouts.
Yep.
Like you keep guys off the bases. And you scored runs. Like it's not rocket science how this team can win. But the combination of the two together is exactly what you saw, right? And if the thing that I'm going to look for moving forward is what they do in that 5th starter spot.
Yeah.
Because in my mind, I don't know what you need to do with Taijuan Walker and his contract, but man, does he not ever, I don't ever need to see him pitch. I just don't. And I'm starting to think, Eric, that blister, which seems like the world's worst blister injury because it just lingered for as long as they needed it to.
I think he's got another one. They should probably shelve him again. Yeah.
It's just bad. It's bad. And it's the equivalent of like the NBA scheduled loss, like where you just sit all your guys like it. And in this race, the position that you've put yourself in based on the way that you've played after the All-Star break, you can't afford those right now.
Yeah. No, you really can't. And it's almost like, especially the way the offense is going, Walker has a couple innings where it's like, oh, maybe, he's getting it. Like his last start, in his first inning, he got 2 outs in 7 pitches. But then ended up throwing 21, I think, pitches in the first inning because then he ends up giving up the run and everything. So it's just like, just when you think maybe he's got it, I don't think he has the stuff to be a major league pitcher right now. And it's unfortunate because he's still owed, I think, like $36 million after the season. That's a lot of money to eat. But here's something that maybe could make that a little bit more palatable is the fact that Andrew Painter's coming back hopefully next year. And he's going to make next to nothing, being even pre-arbitration and everything like that.
Yep.
So maybe it's like, okay, you have a guy who could step into that 5th starter role right away almost, and not make a lot of money. But it's a tough pill to swallow because number one, you're admitting that it was a bad signing, and number two, it's $36 million. I mean, there's certain teams that have a payroll that's less than that. So
was it that when he pitched against the Marlins, his salary was more than the entire Marlins roster, something like that?
Yeah. And the Marlins actually have some players right now who won't be there very long, I'm sure, but they'll.
I'm sure they'll figure out a way to sell to sell off the pieces that they didn't sell off already.
Right.
I think the other hard part for me, Eric, is to see the guys around the MLB that got moved that are having impacts on the teams that they got traded to.
Yeah.
And you're essentially you're out of all the guys that you moved to get, right? You get the Carlos Estevez, you get, Austin Hayes. You haven't really, you've gotten a lot of heartache and a lot of heartburn from Carlos Estevez at the back of the bullpen. And I don't know if that's a product of like, he's closed games, but he hasn't played in like high pressure situations.
No meaningful games. Yeah.
Right. Like when you're closing games for the Angels, when you're 27 games out and no one's paying attention, it's a lot different than when, every game means something. And Austin Hayes, has been okay when he's healthy, right? Like,
right. But the thing is, we haven't really seen him. I mean, he played like 4 or 5 games and then he got hurt and then he's played a couple more since then. So I think with him, it's still kind of early to tell. I think with Tanner Banks, it was kind of like he's just supposed to be like a middle relief guy anyway. So I don't think he's been. I wouldn't say he's been good. I wouldn't say he's been bad. But Estevez is the guy who I had a lot bigger expectations for. But should realize, it's the back end of a Phillies bullpen. Just like we said, in years past, every Phillies team, it doesn't matter who the manager is. It doesn't matter what decade or century it is. The Phillies are always going to have certain issues. And for some reason, it doesn't matter who the closer is. Even Lidge in his perfect season. He made you sweat every single night, right? Because he'd walk a guy, or a guy would get on base. It's like he was good. He was able to pitch out of it. But I don't know what it is. It just feels like every single time we have a guy in that back spot, they're somehow going to give you a heart attack every single time. So hopefully he can figure it out. He just has to stop walking people. I know he's gotten some bad calls over the course of his time so far in the Phillies, but he's got to stop walking people. You cannot hurt yourself like that to begin a 9th inning. You just can't do it. Yeah.
And I don't know. I think, the one guy that I look at that plays a similar position, right? The Jazz Chisholm move to, you've seen what he's done for that clubhouse, in New York, and you got a front row seat. We got a front row seat for it when the Yankees came in, and he just, lit the world on fire.
Yep.
I something about this clubhouse doesn't have any energy.
Yeah.
Like you saw a glimpse of it when you saw Strahm in that one spot where he throws at, can't remember who they were playing, but like someone threw at Castellanos.
Yes.
And then Strahm came back the next inning.
Yeah. Who was that?
I'm trying to think.
Yeah, it'll come back to me at some point.
It's going to bug me, but like you saw a little glimpse of that. Like I almost need like one of those, like, someone to get thrown out, someone throws at somebody, like, charge the mound, brawl, get in a fight. Like, I just don't know. Like, it's a lot of it seems really passive. For prime example, you saw what Orlando Arcia does when he hits the home run and he stares at Harper and kind of, pseudo returns the favor for whatever it means in a game in the middle of August. Prime example of, like, it wouldn't have taken, like, the Harper response is like, I didn't even notice it.
Yep.
But the next time that he comes up, like, he should wear one in the middle of his back and at least show someone that everybody's paying attention. Everybody's dialed in. Because I feel like I don't know if I need Rob Thompson to like get thrown out of a game, like throw a water bottle, like throw the water jug on the field, like get fired up, like get in the manager, like get in the umpire's face. Like, I don't know. I just
show some sense of urgency. Like, I actually have to, even if for wins, I have to turn off post game live when it's Topper's press conferences because he has again, and I give him all the credit in the world. I don't know how an individual can do this, especially when you're so intertwined with everything going on. I don't know how he stays as calm as he does, and I'm just like, dude, it's not calm. Like, it's not calm. Things are going bad really quickly, and you guys are your guys are not playing with any sense of urgency. He doesn't really seem to have a sense of urgency. Now, I am not on between WIP and Twitter and everything like that. Everyone, I shouldn't say everyone, but there have been a lot of people calling for Thompson's job.
Yeah, I'm not there.
He's not. No. He number one, you're still in first in your division. That you fire him. What does that show? Okay, the players all like him. I mean, maybe it's one of those things where after his contract's done, you don't bring him back. But, like, since he's taken over, he's made it to a World Series, an NLCS, and he's for most of the season, the Phillies are the best team in baseball. So it's like things are going bad, and I'd like to see more of a sense of urgency and showing. I don't want to even say panic, but, like, just show us that you care. Show us that the players are pissed. Show us that the coaches are like we are. Because right now, again, it just seems like I'm watching the game apathetically. It seems like they're playing it apathetically. It seems like Thompson's managing it apathetically. It's like, why do I care right now? Because, again, it's a sick addiction. But I need to see something here to, like, make me not feel apathetic about it.
The response after the Taijuan Walker start, when he's like, he looked bad, and he looked bad on many fronts. And the first thing that he says is, I like the fact that I saw some increase in his velocity. Really? Like, that's the last thing. Like, that's the anecdote. Like, he's got to be better. He's got to be better at, not putting guys on. He's got to be better about getting guys ahead in the like getting ahead against guys in the count. And I like this velocity. Like, that's it's like it's the butt statement at the very end of, like, a long tirade of, like, he has to be better in order that I think now we're seeing why he got shelved in the playoffs, because you can't trust him to start a game. And there really is no spot for him to come in unless it's like a complete blowout on either way.
Right. And in a playoff series, you don't need 5 starters. And ultimately, I mean, all 4 other guys you could trust to get a shut, maybe not a shutdown inning, but, like, you're not always going to give up a run. Whereas Walker, it feels like he can't go 3 innings without giving up at least, 3 or 4 runs. And in the playoffs, that's just not palpable, right? I mean, you have the way a manager handles a pitching staff in the playoffs is so different than the regular season because, if your team's up 3 runs, get the starter and just put your big power arms in the bullpen and just sit guys down. I mean, you can't go down runs on purpose in the playoffs. Not saying they're doing it in the regular season, but you can't honestly tell me that there's one person who is comfortable other than Taijuan Walker and I guess Rob Thompson, whatever fantasy land he's in about Walker. It's like you can't tell me there's one person in Philadelphia, player, coach, fan, doesn't matter, who is confident in any time he takes the mound right now.
Yeah, I'm out. I'm out on all things. Now so outfield wise, right? The the platoon that's happening now between Austin Hayes, Weston Wilson, Brandon Marsh. Rojas has played really well in the last couple of weeks. I like what I see from a guy that's going to bat ninth in your order. I got to feel like Marsh has to have a time where he's got to sit. He's got to sit. Like you can't trust him in essentially. He's become the equivalent of an automatic out minus like a handful of hits. What's your approach with these guys, that group of guys in the outfield?
So the only thing that stinks here is that Marsh is really the only lefty you have, right? I mean, Rojas, Weston Wilson, and Austin Hayes are all right-handed bats. So against a lefty, yeah, you can sit him. But I mean, Topper is another guy who he likes. He obviously likes going with the matchups. And unfortunately, we just don't have another left-handed bat right now that you can really, you can really put out there. So unfortunately, I think we're kind of in a spot where we might just be stuck, and it's hard to say. But you look at splits, like Rojas isn't. I mean, he's actually been okay recently, but he's not a guy you're going to rely on for offensive production. Hayes, they got mainly to hit lefties, right? I mean, his splits when we traded for him, that's one of the first things I looked at was his splits, and he's not good against hitting. He's not hitting righties. Weston Wilson did hit against righties the other day, so maybe that's something you can kind of explore there a little bit. But then he goes and plays third base and makes a complete debacle of that. So yeah. I don't know. It's like they're stuck here because of the fact that they're so righty heavy with what they can do in their outfield right now.
I got to imagine that that's something that they address in the offseason.
Yeah, I would have to think
that
so.
You've got to figure out a way to find a balance in that spot. And what's hard is the guys that you had options on trading. A lot of those guys that we were talking about were also right-handed bats, right? Mm-hmm. When we talk about Brent Rooker and we talk about, Luis Robert, those are also right-handed bats that they have made, I feel like obviously the impact on the offensive side would have definitely been better, but then, there's some liability in there defensively. So I don't know. It's just, it's frustrating to see them struggle as much as they are when they have the talent that they do. You just want them to be able to try to put it together, right? You got Kobe Allard, who's gonna pitch today against Seth Lugo in this rubber game where you got to be able to kind of close out this series. I understand why, but I hate the fact that Real Muto is not going to play today. Yeah. Stubbs is going to play today. I get it. I get
exactly. You have to do it, especially to preserve him. But it stinks because he's he has all that momentum from last night. But I don't think he could have went 0 for 5 last night with 5 strikeouts, and it would have been the same result regardless. So it's frustrating just because of the timing of it. That's really the only thing.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts going into this afternoon?
So Allard, I think, has actually been better than what I expected him to kind of be. I get why they're doing the, they're pushing the guys back. I know, you want to keep your starters healthy, getting down the stretch run here. But I think the big thing here is going to be getting to Lugo early. He's having a good year. I think he's got a 3.02 or 3.04 ERA.
Yeah, 3.02.
So he's
3.02 ERA, 143 strikeouts, 42 walks. He's got a 1.09 whip.
Oh, that's a really good whip.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you have to figure out a way to get to him. Carry that momentum in from last night, and hopefully, guys, hopefully Schwarber and Turner can kind of pick up where they left off last night. Stott, I would love nothing more. Going into the season, I was the biggest advocate that Bryson Stott was going to be the guy to take the biggest step forward for the Phillies. I was obviously wrong about that. But if he can just even toward going down the stretch run here, obviously, he's not going to go 4 for 4 every night. But if I could just start seeing productive at bats from him, because he's an important part of this lineup, right? He might, he's hitting somewhere toward the middle, usually what, 6th or 5th or 6th. So like we need production from him. So hopefully he can get that carried through here. I would love to see another game, at least another hit or another, an RBI or a run scored from him, because he gets on base and he steals. Like he can make things happen on the base paths too.
Yeah.
So I think you got to get out. I don't want to be playing from behind today, especially being on the road with a quad A pitcher basically going right now for the Phillies. You got to jump out to an early lead there. I would love Schwarber set the table with a nice leadoff home run. That I think this goes momentum on your way so far.
I think this is the perfect type of game for you to bat around in the first. Like you put up 4, 5. Like you put up a crooked number in the first, and you kind of set the table, and you let your quad A guy kind of pitch from in front, right? Because he's had at AAA in the last since August 1st, he's pitched 18 innings, but he's given up 21 hits, 9 earned runs, 6 walks, 18 strikeouts.
Not ideal for what you want to see.
No, not ideal. So I think your perspective of pitching from in front and giving him a baseline of things to kind of work with, it is where you're going to get the most ideal performance from him, I think. But offensively, you got to be able to put up runs, and it's not going to be productive unless that is the plan from the jump. Like you have to be offensively productive. I do want to talk about some other stuff. I was reading the article that you had published. Talk about the article with Aiden Miller, because he's been really, really productive at the minor league level.
Yeah, it's been kind of a weird season now. Again, last year, so he was drafted last year. He played, parts of the season in in the rookie ball, and then Clearwater for a little bit. So he started in Clearwater this year, absolutely tore the cover off the ball, gets promoted in June to Jersey Shore, and he struggled. But again, he was 19 last year, he's 20. So he's still on the younger side of things. He struggled, but since August 1st, he's been back. He's scoring runs, he's knocking in runs. The only thing is, like, his strikeout rate is still a little bit alarming. But I mean, hey, he'd fit in right with the he'd fit right in with the Phillies at this point right now. So no, I mean, he's obviously still got a lot of development to do. But it's really promising because he did just take now there's different prospect rankings, but according to MLB Pipeline, he's now the Phillies' #1 prospect. #1. So you definitely want to see him take these steps and move forward. So yes, it's all about just adjusting. I think he's making the adjustments to the higher level of pitching. I'm really excited to see what's in store for him for next year. I would not be surprised at all if we saw him maybe start a couple play a week or two in Jersey and then move up to Reading for most of next season. But I think we only got a couple of years until he's pretty much ready to go.
Yeah, and then you start talking about what, like, it gets my mind thinking, like, because your infield spots are kind of like set in stone here, right? Like you're not moving. Like Harper's not moving back to the outfield.
He's not going anywhere.
Stott's not going anywhere. Trey Turner's certainly not going anywhere. And Alec Boehm, like, is that something where you toy with the idea of moving Trey Turner to the outfield? Do you to create a spot for him? But then Trey Turner's going to be a little older. Is like I don't know how it fits, because obviously the outfield position is where you have the most flexibility in the field on this roster.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And it's one of those things where they're going to have to make a decision on Boehm and Stott in the next couple of years. Boehm's heading out of arbitration shortly. Stott, I think, has another year or two. So they're going to have to make a decision on what they want to do and see. Quite frankly, I don't see them locking up both necessarily long term. I think they have to kind of pick one and kind of go from there, just because you can't, like, their payroll eventually can't, they can't keep taking on huge contracts,
Yeah.
and without there being repercussions. So, you got to try to figure out a way to get Miller in, probably, I'm going to say by 2026, 2027, they're going to have to make that decision. And I think Turner's the most versatile to change, right? Because he's already not a great defensive shortstop. I don't know where he'd be a better fit, if he'd actually be okay in the outfield, or he's a guy I think, you might be able to move to second base. But then, then you got the Stott issue, right? That's if they want to keep Bohm long term. You could try him maybe at third base, or you can move Aiden Miller to third base and keep Turner at short and keep Stott at second, or switch those two. There's a lot of versatility to what they can do here, because I think the thing that we're going to see is Turner is going to move from shortstop, and I think we just have to figure out where he's going to go, because Stott's playing a great second base right now. Bohm has improved drastically at third base. It's just a matter of who they keep till 2026, 2027.
Yeah, I'm curious. And listen, over his he's got a 9-game hit. Aiden Miller's got a 9-game hitting streak.
Yep.
He's got 8 extra base hits, 3 home runs. Right, the slash line is wild. He's 469, 564, and 938. Like his 1.5 OPS is just wild.
Impressive, yeah.
So it's nice to see that that's kind of on the horizon, but it's it's curious, like, conversation for where this roster could look like, what it could look like, and I think outfield is where they might have the most flexibility if they think about I think, is there a potential for him to maybe take some outfield reps next spring training to kind of maybe open up his position flexibility? But I think you're right. I think the idea that he probably spends most of the year in AA and maybe ends the year in AAA is probably his most likely outcome.
Yeah, I would think so. And sometimes these guys, like these top prospects, sometimes they just skip AAA altogether. But the other thing about outfield is Justin Crawford, who actually may be a little bit of a step ahead in terms of development, maybe a step ahead or two with over Miller. He's having a really nice season right now too. I think I saw the other day, like his slash line is really impressive. So that could be another way. Now, again, there's not much power there, but the speed, the defense, and contact rate is, it's definitely impressive, and something that would be a major welcome addition to this Phillies outfield, who strikes out quite a bit.
Oh, 100%. Now listen, I gotta just before we jump out of here, I got a couple of fun things to show you.
Okay.
So I came across this the other day, and I have to share it with you. So apparently there's a there's a housing development in Lancaster County, but the street signs for this housing development, you've got Hamels Court at Rollins Lane, you've got Utley Place, and you've got Howard Drive. So clearly there is someone in this housing development who sidetracked the name, the street names. I'm thoroughly impressed.
So I'm curious, because there's one in Phoenixville that has the same thing. There's an Utley, Ashburn, Bunning from the ones that I've seen. I'm wondering if it's the same developer who's developing in 2 different areas here, because I have jokingly said to my wife as we passed by it, I think I know where we're moving if we end up putting this house on the market. So
it's true. Well, listen, it's the villas at Willow Run. So I don't know. I don't have any connection to them, but I just saw that and thought, like, that's awesome pandering to anybody. I'm curious why it took that long to surface, but that was it's a place that, like, I don't know how to get there, but I feel like at some point, if I'm in Lancaster, I might have to just like drive around and find it.
The GPS.
Put it. I need to go to Utley Way, and it just Now, the other thing that I want to share is, and I don't know if this was a part of your youth, but it was certainly part of mine. The return of backyard sports.
Oh yeah.
So the
Used to
backyard
play-
sports has the game is coming back,
Yeah, I did hear
and
that.
I could not have been more nostalgic over the last couple of weeks when I've seen this. It really does give me puts me in a good feel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I used to love baseball and football were the two I played the most. But yeah, now that I used to play a lot of backyard sports.
The obviously the go-to player, Pablo Sanchez.
Yeah, so because he was the go-to guy, I'm like, you know what? I never actually I never took him. I wanted to beat him. So I would always, you know, my favorite, for as a wide receiver, my favorite guy, I believe it's Ricky Johnson was, I think, my favorite wide receiver for backyard football.
Listen, I'm looking at this was actually kind of funny. It was the
throwbacks.
it was the build your starting five with $15. So you've got Pablo Sanchez is the only guy in the $5 slot, but then you've got Pete Wheeler in the $4 slot. You got Ernie Steele was a good go-to in the third slot. It's just it's a good go-to feel. It's a good feel to go back to see, you know, some of these, and then it gives another connection point to kind of, you know, to connect with this generation and kind of reconnect and talk about how those games played a role in our lives earlier on in our lives.
Yeah, once I figure out what platform that'll be on, I'm going to try to get back into that a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know how.
Yeah, I don't know either.
I don't know how it's going to be displayed. I don't know how it's going to be used, but it's exciting to see that these opportunities are coming along. The last thing, did you see any of the MLB clips that are going around with Greg Maddux?
I've seen a couple here and there.
Greg Maddux was just on another plane of existence. The clip is too long. The clip is too long for me to play because it's like 5.5 minutes.
Right.
But essentially, the one that I wanted to talk to you about is there's a clip with him. Did you see the clip with him and Greg Bagwell?
Jeff Bagwell?
Or Jeff Bagwell, sorry. Bagwell.
No, I don't think I saw that one.
So essentially it's a regular season game, and Jeff Bagwell's up, and Javi Lopez is the catcher, and he's like, listen, right. we're not gonna throw him fastballs at all. Nothing. We're not gonna throw him fastballs at all. And Maddux essentially says, like, no, I'm going to throw him a fastball. And it's a game that's in like the middle of June. It's like a throwaway game. They're up by like 8 runs. And Javi Lopez is pissed. Because he throws it and he crushes it like 10 rows deep. And he's like walking off the field. He's like, dude, what are we doing? And he goes, don't worry. He goes, they're a good team. We're going to play them again. And inevitably what happens exactly is that they see them in the playoffs. He comes up in a big spot. There's 2 guys on and nobody out. And he throws him 3 straight changeups. And he's like walking off the field. He goes, you remember that game?
Yeah.
when I said I didn't want to throw anything, like he was just on another plane of existence. Like he thought about not just that at bat. He knew
in the future,
that, like, I'm probably gonna face this dude in the playoffs 3.5 months from now. And I'm setting up an at bat that I think might happen 3.5 months from now. I'm setting up that at bat now.
Yeah, wow, that's
and I'm going, it's like just like wild, and it's it's not a wonder that he was as productive and elite an athlete as he was.
Mhm. Yeah, no, that is impressive. I'll have to go back and find that one.
It seems to be that these are cut up clips from a much larger thing on Greg
Documentary or
Maddux,
something like that. Yeah.
there's been like 3 or 4 of these that have come out that there was another one with him and Barry Bonds, right? Where
Okay.
he was going back and forth with an at bat with Barry
Right,
Bonds. And that one was really cool because they had them both watching it from separate locations
Oh, okay.
and kind of going like pitch for pitch.
That's
And
cool.
it was interesting to see like one guy who's pitching, who's at an elite Hall of Fame level,
Mhm.
and one guy who's hitting, who obviously isn't, right? But he is like
numbers wise would be it.
Numbers
Yes.
wise, like one of the most elite, prolific, should be in the Hall of Fame hitters.
Right.
And it's interesting to see them the way that they are thinking like 10 steps ahead for
Mhm.
every pitch and setting up every pitch and even Barry Bonds trying to set up Maddux to get him to throw a certain pitch, and Maddux knowing that he's setting him up and trying to counterbalance. I know that he thinks I'm going to throw this pitch,
Mhm.
but I'm going to throw something else. Like just the baseball conversation was just like I was like, all right, I need more. I need
Yeah.
more of this conversation.
And that is, it's interesting to think about, obviously, because of, they're 2 elite level players.
Mhm.
But then also kind of going back to what we were talking about, right? And like what these hitters and pitchers do go through in terms of preparation for, not just a game, but each individual at bat and each individual pitch, which, again, from us watching it on TV, we were bad mouthing Turner earlier, but like, that does kind of give you a little bit of an insight into just like, okay, these pitchers are prepared. They know what's going on. The hitters, have to do the same thing. So it does kind of give you that kind of little bit of, I don't know, I guess, insight into what's happening. Every at bat, every pitch is a game of chess between, the pitcher and the hitter. And again, frustrating sometimes, but it's one of those things where we don't necessarily know what's going on. We can say, hey, why are you swinging at that way? But it's not always as easy as it comes off.
All right, so I did find something as we're sitting here talking. So
Okay.
apparently these clips are being put out as a way to promote the debut of a documentary called One of a Kind, and it's going to debut tonight
Oh, wow.
at 8:00 on MLB Network.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Going to go hit the record button on that one because I'm gonna have to watch that one a couple times.
Yeah, that's I'm sure I probably won't get to it tonight, but I will make sure I do catch that.
Most definitely. Adam, we all did. I feel like we all played backyard. The backyard sports is definitely an elite childhood memory.
Yeah.
Eric, final thoughts on the way out.
I really want to just see momentum. Just give me some momentum here because we're going into some tough series coming up. I want to win. I want to win today, or at least look competitive. I don't want to be in one of those things where we have 3 hits and we're down 3 going to the 9th inning, and I'm just watching for the sake of watching at that point. I really want to see this team coming with some momentum, and it's getting into crunch time now. I'm not saying you have to win out, but you got to start playing better baseball and start getting hot for the postseason, or else it's going to be a very fast October.
Yeah, I think you need to start to string a couple series wins.
Yeah.
That's it. Like you got to start winning series like you did at the beginning of the season. I'm not saying you got to run. You don't got to run. I'm not telling you got to run 12 straight off, but like you need to start stringing together series wins. But a better opportunity to, kind of capitalize off of, where you left off last night, put up another really crooked number and, kind of, ride the momentum of coming in against this, because you're going to play 3 at home against Houston. And then you're going to face Atlanta. Like you're going to have 2 really competitive series coming up.
Yep.
You're going to need to start winning series, and it's what a better preparation for going into the playoffs. So I just want to, like you said, I want to see them be competitive. I want to see everything come together, and really just kind of ride this wave into October, right? Because the sports calendar is going to get super busy from this point forward. right? There's not another weekend between now and, the middle of February without, college football, NFL football. You're going to start to see that calendar is going to heat up. The NFL, you got essentially 2 weeks until the Eagle season starts when they play that game in Brazil. And there's not a better electric feeling than having like the Eagle season going on, the Citizens Bank Park with Red October. You're going to have a Sixer season with a lot of promise. The Flyers are going to debut a Russian phenom. Like those good. The sports calendar is going to be pretty busy in the city. So I think you can start to build and ride the wave of momentum into this season, and look forward to the fall. So listen, on the way out, go Phils.
Yeah, go Phils.
Hey, listen to this guy. Tell me how you're feeling here. You're screaming.
I am stoked, baby.
You're screaming like it's still the game going on.
We're talking about the fightings here. The fightings. Said.
Should.
They're swinging a miss. Struck him out. The Philadelphia Phillies are 2